Hi people, and welcome to this essential course in AutoCAD. Here we will cover the most important tools and techniques in a way that you can start making your projects beautifully and above all with precision. This tutorial is quite long. It takes 1 hour and a half and is divided in 5 parts. So if you want, you can take a rest at the end of each part. And in order to facilitate the things for you, I included a list of contents in the description. You don't have to watch all the video right now. If you want, you can come back tomorrow or next week, it doesn't matter, and click on the chapter that you want to continue watching. Also, if you click on the card above, you can open this video in a playlist, where you can have easy access to the other full-length AutoCAD courses in this channel. Part 1. This version is AutoCAD 2013. And during this course we will use also version 2018 and 2019. However, if you have another version, it shouldn't be a problem, because even different versions can change a bit the layout, or the newest ones just have more features. All the basic and main things are mostly the same. For example, if you can work in AutoCAD 2005 without any problem, it will not be too hard to get used to AutoCAD 2018 or 2019, for example. And that's because a special characteristic of AutoCAD is that we can start any action by typing the command name. For example, if I want to draw a line, I can type line and this will activate the command. If I type options, I will open the panel of options. So it's very simple. If I hold my mouse pointer over any icon, it appears there a small box with a briefly explanation of the tool. In this case, it's the multi-line text. And the word below is the command name. Basically, if I know the name of the command, I can activate this action by inserting the name with the keyboard. The name of the commands are the same for all versions. Of course, it's possible that exists any exception, and also that some of them have been experiencing improvements all over the time. Now I'm going to talk about the workspace, and how I can use the mouse and its buttons here. It's possible that it seems a bit confusing at the beginning, but don't worry because you will get used easily over the time. This cross is our mouse indicator, and it has exactly this shape when we don't have any command active. The most common way to move through different sections of the drawing is using the mouse wheel. If I scroll up, I zoom in, and if I scroll down, I zoom out. To move the workspace, just click and hold the wheel and slide it. If you are familiar with Google Maps, this works as the same way, so it will be easy for you. If you click anywhere with the right button, you open the right-click menu. And you can find there useful features regarding the object that you click on. Basically, this menu changes if you click on a blank workspace or in an object. But anyway, some of the options are always available in the menu. The left button is used for selection. If I want to select from the left to the right, the select area will appear in blue. And I need to cover all the line in order to select it. If I just cover a part, it will not work, as you can see here. But if I open the selection from the right to the left, the selection area displays in green, and if you just touch the line, it goes to the selection. To cancel the selection, just click on Escape. Now I'm going to start teaching you to draw in AutoCAD, and for that I will introduce the command line. It's the most basic tool in AutoCAD and the one that you will use most of the time. To draw a line, I can go to the Home panel at the top and click on the icon Line, with the left button, of course. Another option is typing line with the keyboard and then press Enter. If you look at the command bar, you can see that I have the command line active. Also, the mouse indicator has changed. Now it doesn't have that square in the middle. It appears in this form when I'm using any drawing tools, and the drawing tools are the ones that you can find in this panel. To start drawing, I can just click somewhere here to enter the first point. And click again, where I want to put the second point. For example, here. Now I can enter a second line, but I can also press Escape to cancel the command. Okay, so we have drawn a line. However, it was without any specific dimension and direction, and this is not going to be very useful for us. So, I want to show you how to insert a horizontal line with a specific dimension, for example 1000. For now, the units doesn't matter, as I will show you how to edit them later. Now, please learn this tip. I'm going to press Enter, and you can see that the last command used, the command line, is active again. So in this kind of situations, it's the quickest way to do. I click to insert the first point, then I move to the right. Now, here appears this dashed green line, saying Polar. And it means that the line will be completely horizontal. Now I will type 1000 and press Enter. As you can see, this line is completely horizontal and specified as 1000. To be possible to draw completely horizontal or vertical lines, we need the polar tracking or polar mode. Now I will deactivate it, which is here at the bottom, to show you what will happen. I will draw another line now, and as you can see, the dashed line is not there anymore. And even if I try to draw it as horizontal as possible, for sure it will get a little bit out of the place, even if it's unnoticeable. For that reason, I strongly recommend you to make sure that the polar tracking is on, or the mode that we are going to see next, the ortho mode. To draw only orthogonal lines, I can switch on the ortho mode, which is this button next to the polar mode. Drawing a line again, I click for the first point, and the cursor only lets me to draw a vertical or a horizontal line. So I will type now 100, then 200, and I can continue drawing until I want. This will be 100. I will draw another line, and I can draw how many lines as I want. When I finish, I simply press Escape. So the last thing I will teach you about the command line is to draw a line with a specific angle. I will draw first a horizontal line, and the next one I want to draw it with a length 200, and if I press the button Tab, I can specify the angle that I want. I will raise the line, for example 30 degrees, and press Enter to confirm it. In the next section, I will explain you how to set up and edit units. One thing I recommend is drawing with scale 1:1. I mean, if you want to draw a line with 1 meter of length, draw it with the real length, not with 1 centimeter. That's because it's easier to not get confused, and you only need to scale the drawing when you will plot it. Now, if you look to the bottom left corner, you can see the coordinates of the mouse pointer. The first number is the x coordinate, the second the y coordinate, and the third the z coordinate. As by default, we are working on a 2D plane, and that plane is the xy plane, the z coordinate is always 0. Another thing, this symbol is called the UCS icon, and UCS means Universal Coordinate System, and its position on the workspace indicates the origin, where the 3 Cartesian axes are 0. Now let's learn to set up units in AutoCAD. I will type units, press enter to open this panel. Here, where it says length, I can choose the type that I want. In this case, I'm going to use decimal units, but I know that in some countries it's common to use the architectural or engineering units. In the precision, you have all these options to choose. And at this side, you can choose the type of angle units. I use decimal degrees, which is the most common type. Then, in this insertion scale, we should set the units here that we are going to use in this file. However, let's suppose I forget to specify the correct units here. That's not a problem, as I can change the units at any time. Actually, the units for insertion scale just have the purpose in exchanging content between files. For example, if I have drawn a window in a different file, and that window has a width of 1.2, and the units on that file are set as meters, when I bring to this file, where the units are millimeters, the window is automatically resized in order to measure 1200 here. Now I want to show you a common issue that usually happens in older versions of AutoCAD. If you have a recent version, you probably don't need to deal with this, but let's see. It was common that our workspace was not very wide, especially when we were changing the units to millimeters. But this is a simple thing to solve. If I draw a very long line, like for example 100,000 millimeters, it will not fit in the drawing. But the solution for this is typing the command zoom, Z, press enter, I type A for all, and as you see, my workspace is much larger now. In the next topic, I'll show you a very basic tool that will help us to draw with precision. It's the object snap. On the screen, you can see those lines that you may know how to draw them. So I'm going to activate the command line, and if I hover the pointer on the corner of a line or along the line, you can see this green symbol showing up there. These points are from the object snap and they help me to draw with precision. For example, the square indicates an endpoint of one of the lines. If I click here, the start point of the new line will be precisely from the corner. I will show you what happens when I have the object snap off. So I would try to draw a line from this corner. And now if I zoom in, I can see that there is a gap. These things can make your drafting imprecise, and when working in large projects, you would have dozens of these situations, making everything a bit of a mess. As that's not what we want, let's learn how this works. I'm going to show you how to choose the object snap points. We have to type O snap to open the settings. Here I can activate the modes that I need. In this tutorial I will show you how to use some of them. I'm going to start with the endpoint. As I showed you before, it appears in the extremities of the lines and arcs. The midpoint is useful when you want to draw from the middle of the object. The center only applies for circles and ellipses. And to detect these points, I have to touch the border of the circle without clicking. And for the ellipse is the same. The intersection is obviously when you want to detect a point of intersection between two lines. The extension appears, for example, when you click on an endpoint and you drag the pointer in the same direction of your line. Now the perpendicular. This is a little bit tricky. I'm going to draw a line from here, and now I have to touch the line that I want to assume as my reference. I drag the mouse to find the perpendicular line. So here it is. I can just type the length to draw it. Now I want to draw a line from the same point to the perpendicular intersection of this line I highlighted here. Once I reach that destination line, I find this sign that indicates the perpendicular point of my future intersection. I click there and I have my new line orthogonal with this another. Parallel mode. If you want to draw a parallel line, just click here, for example, drag the mouse over the line that I want to make it parallel to detect it. Object Snap Tracking. This is a very useful tool. If I want to put the first point of a new line at 50 mm at the right from another, I would touch the endpoint of my line and drag slowly to the right. I would type 50 to insert the first point of the new line. So here it is. Of course, I can do the same to another direction. Now I will show you to the left side. This time I will insert a distance of 100 and I can draw this line here. One last thing about the object snap. I recommend you to only activate the modes you are using, because if you activate everything, it can be a bit confusing sometimes, with the green signs appearing everywhere. How does the other drawing tools work? If you go to the drawing section on the top, you can find there a lot of commands, and there are some more if you click here in this arrow. As this is a tutorial for beginners, I will only show you how to use some of them, the most important: polylines, rectangles, circles, and arcs. I think these are the most used and enough for beginners in AutoCAD. I'm going to show you how to use the command polyline. A polyline is basically a group of lines, all connected to each other. To draw a polyline, we can click on this button, or we can also type with the keyboard P-line or simply PL. Press enter, and as you can see, this is the same process of drawing line. Now I'm drawing as much lines as I need, and when I finish, I press escape, or if I want to connect with the first point of the polyline, I can simply type CL, that means close, and press enter. So the main characteristic when I draw a polyline is that I select all these lines together, because they are considered only one object. If I want to draw a rectangle, I can still use polyline, but if I click in the command rectangle, it's easier. That is because first I click to insert the start point, and then I only need to insert the coordinates of the opposite corner. For example, if I want a rectangle with dimensions 300 by 500, first I type 300, then I press the button Tab, and finally 500. So as you can see, for rectangles it's faster doing this way. Now I'm going to show you how to draw a circle. You can click on this icon here, or you can type either circle or C. First I click to insert the center, for example here, and now I'll insert the radius of the circle, 250, and press enter. Then, if you go to the drawing panel and click on this arrow, you can choose the way how you want to insert a circle. For example, you can choose first the center and insert a diameter. You can draw a circle by inserting 2 or 3 points, and also by using tangent points. So if you want, you can play around this because it's easy to learn. To draw an arc, I can click on the icon above, or I can simply type A with the keyboard. I click to insert the first point. Now I will put a second point, and then the third point. At the beginning, it may be a little bit difficult to draw an arc, but with practice you will get used to it. Also, like the circle, if you click on the arrow, you can choose the points that you want to insert for drawing the arc. There are several options like before. Okay, now that you know how to use these commands, you can play around with them and also discover the other drawing tools. Part 2. In this part, we are going to talk about the Modify section. It's very important to learn how to use most of these commands from the beginning. This not only helps you to modify objects, but also to save time when you are drawing. Another thing, when you activate the command of the section Modify, the pointer changes to this shape. I'm going to start with the most basic commands. They are Move, Copy and Rotate. I will start with the command Move, and it's very simple. I'm going to type M, or click in the button located there, select the objects, press Enter, then I pick a point, this one for example, and now I click again to put the object on the new position. This time I'm going to move it 500 to the right of the endpoint. Now I'm going to show you the command Copy. This time I type CO or copy, and it works as the same way as the command Move. The only difference is that it keeps the original objects. This time I'm going to choose this base point. I copy the objects to a distance of 500 to the left. I also want to show you another and a very useful way of the copy command. We are going to activate the command again, select the objects, press Enter and select the base point. Now, if you look to the command bar, it says Specify second point or Array. We are going to activate Array by typing A, and here we have to enter the number of items to array. I put 5, and you can see on the screen that we will have 5 items displayed in a row. And, this is very important, with the same distance between each other. I'm going to specify 2000 for the distance. How to use the command Rotate? We are going to type RO or Rotate, select the objects, and press Enter. I'm going to specify a base point, for example this one. I can rotate the figure around that point, as you can see. Then I can click, for example, here. Okay, now imagine that we want to rotate the figure to the position that it was before. So, if we do the same process, we pick a point, our reference line will not be horizontal this time, and when we place the object, it will not be with precision. And it means that we have to use a different way. Okay, we are going to repeat all the process again, and when we have to specify the base point, we are going to type R for reference. With this, I will pick 2 points for specifying a reference line. The first one will be this, and the second, this another. So, with this way, I can rotate around this line. And to make it horizontal, just use the polar tracking. For example, now it says polar. I can click. As you can see, the figure is finally straight. Okay, let's go through the next command. This one I consider very useful to step out from creating simple objects and moving or creating an exact copy of them. It's the command offset. The icon is located on this place here, and it's used to create parallel lines and curves and also concentric circles. I'm going to show you an example with this polyline. Here, I want to create an internal polyline with this distance specified as 150. I click on the icon and I will insert 150 for the specified distance. Then I click on the object and then I click here to offset to the inner side. Here you have it. On the next example, I have this line and I want to make multiple parallel lines. I'm going to type O for offset, and this time I will specify a distance of 200. I click on the line, and then I'm going to type M for multiple. So, with this, I'm able to draw parallel lines with the distance of 200 between each other. Next, I want to show you the options through in the offset command. I type O again. Now, instead of typing the distance, I can type through, or T. And with this, I can place the parallel line where I want. So I will place the line using some object snap points as my reference. For example, this endpoint. I will also do it at the top of this window and at the top of the wall. Here. Now that you know how to use offset, you can try it and practice. We have an example of offset for an ellipse and an arc. If we have a complex polyline with arcs included, it also works. Now, if we have the same figure but splitted in lines and arcs, the offset will be separately, and this is what happens. Basically, to offset the objects like before, you need to convert the lines to only one polyline. On the next section, I will explain you how to trim objects. Here I have drawn these 3 parallel lines. Additionally, I made 2 more intersecting them. I want to cut off these sections, and for that I will do it with the command trim, which I have it there. I click on the icon, and then I select the object and press Enter. Finally, I click on the parts that I want to remove. So as you may understood, with this tool I trim any section between any intersection of the selected lines. Now imagine if I want to cut off all these parts of the parallel lines. I activate trim again, and this time I will only select this line along the 3 parallel lines. As I have left the diagonal line unselected, it will delete everything to the left from the vertical line. Here it is. Okay, now I'm going to show you the command extend. You can find it clicking on the arrow at the right side of the trim command. So this is useful when we want to extend lines towards another object. I'm going to extend the horizontal lines till the diagonal line. I will select all, press Enter, and then I click on the lines that I want to extend. So it's done. As you can see, the commands trim and extend are not difficult to use, although you must practice. Next part, I'm going to explain you the command mirror. It's very simple and I'm going to show you how it works. For example, I want to mirror this figure. Then I create a virtual mirror and finally the object will be copied symmetrically. So I'm going to explain you the process slowly. To activate the command, I can type MI or mirror or click on the button located at the Modify section. I'm going to select the objects and press Enter. Then I have to specify the mirror line. But I want a new figure to be located at the distance of 100 from the existing one. Hovering the endpoint, I drag to the right, type 50 and press Enter. So I have specified here the first point of the mirror line. Then I need a second point in order to make a vertical line. Also the length of the mirror line doesn't matter, only the direction. I click and here I press Enter again to remain the source objects. Another thing, before specifying 50 for the distance from the object to the mirror line, with that I can have the total distance of 100. Now I want to show you another useful situation to use mirror. If we need to create a symmetric figure, we can just draw half of it. And when I have to place the mirror line, it draws exactly where is the endpoint. I move up, click here and it's done. So if you need to make very complex symmetric drawings, you can save a lot of time doing this way. We can also draw the mirror line with a different direction. I will make a horizontal line from this endpoint. And the objects are now mirrored in this different way. So it's also possible to draw diagonal mirror lines. However, in this situation, I just wanted vertical or horizontal mirror lines. And to make sure of that, I had the polar tracking turned on. Now I'm going to explain to you how to use the command Fillet and the command Chamfer, which can be used to modify corners, as you can see here. The command Fillet will change the corner to an arc, which I specified typing the radius. The command Chamfer will change the corner to a line, which in this case I specify it typing the distances from the corner to the intersections. So I'm going to start with the command Fillet. Okay, I'm going to draw a rectangle with the command line, and I will specify the dimensions as 100 by 50. Once I finish, I click on the command Fillet, which I can find it over there. I will try to convert to an arc this corner. I select this line, and when I select the second line, I realize that no arc was created. This usually happens when I'm using the command for the first time, as the radius by default is 0. Let's repeat the process again. I click on Fillet. Now look to the command bar and you can see these options, and one of them is the radius. I type R. Now I need to enter the radius, for example 10. I'm going to choose the lines again, and as you can see, I have put in this corner an arc of radius 10. Then I will apply Fillet to the other corners. Press Enter to activate the command again. I select these two lines, and you can see that another arc was created here at this side. Now I'm going to apply it to the corner below, but this time I want to change the radius to 20. I type R and enter 20. Then I select the lines and it's done. On the next part, I will show you how to apply Fillet on Polylines. I am drawing the same figure, but this time as a polyline instead of lines. Now that I finished, I type F for Fillet. I will enter P for Polyline. I enter 10 for the radius, and when I select, it creates arcs for all the corners. All, except this one where I started and finished the polyline. In fact, there was a missing step to convert all the corners to arcs. I have to type CL to close it first, and by doing this, it's like the polyline doesn't have a start and an end point, so the polyline will continue also in this corner. If I use Fillet again, you can see that it's now applied for all the corners at one time. Let's see another option regarding the command Fillet. I activate the command again, and this time I'm going to type T. As you can see, I can switch between trim and no trim. I choose no trim, and when I select the objects, the original is not going to be deleted. If I want to use Fillet in several corners in one time, I activate Fillet, I type M for multiple, and I'm able to do the operation for several corners, without need to activate the command again. Now I'm going to show to you how to use the command Chamfer. It works as the same way as Fillet, but the corner will be changed to a line instead. The process is simple. Click on the arrow next to the command Fillet and choose Chamfer. I will type D for distance. Now for the distance 1 I put 10, and for the distance 2, 20. Press enter. For the distance 1 that I put 10, I choose this line, and the second distance click here. So this is how the command Chamfer works. Also, like the command Fillet, the options trim, multiple and polyline can be used also in Chamfer. How to use the command scale to change the size of an object. Basically, this is used to increase or decrease the size of a drawing. And I recommend you to not use this command for printing purposes. It's better to draw always in the scale 1 per 1. However, if you need to scale a drawing in order to print it, don't worry, we will learn that later in a specific chapter of this tutorial. To change the scale of a drawing, I will click on the icon in the Modify section, or type Scale or SC. Now I select the objects that I want to scale and press Enter. Then I select the base point, and when I drag the pointer, I realize the rectangle is getting too large. At the moment it's using a factor of 35. It means that if I click now, the size of the object will increase 35 times, but without any precision. Because of that, I should insert a scale factor. Going back, I will set it as 2, and the line sizes will change to the double size. Now I will type the command distance or DI so I can measure this line. And as you can see, the length has changed to 200. Another thing, if this dimension doesn't appear in your workspace, you have to switch on this button for dynamic input. Also press F12. If instead I want to scale my drawing to a smaller size, I have to insert for the scale factor a value under 1. For example, if I insert 0.5, the lines decreased to their half. Now imagine that I want to change the scale in order to have this line as 135. I turn on the command again, select everything, then choose the base point, and if you look to the command bar, there is an option called Reference. I will type REF or R, and with this option I will choose 2 points and type the new distance between them. I choose this as the first point, and this one another here the second point. Now I want this distance to be 350. It's done, and those are my new distances. Now let's have a look to a different situation to use references with scale. This time I don't know the distance. I just want the length of this door to match the spacing below. I will repeat the previous method. I will choose now the base point, type reference, And like before, I choose 2 points of my reference. Then I need to click on the second point. Now, instead of typing the distance, I type P for points, and then choose these 2 points, because I want to fit the door here. Okay, now these 2 distances are the same. Finally, I just need to move the door there, and it will fit exactly in that place. Ta-da! Perfectly fit. Now let's learn how to stretch objects. Let's convert the figure below on the figure above. For that, I'm going to use the command stretch. I can type S or find the icon at the modify panel there. Now I have to select the lines that I want to extend, and also the end section on the right. But I have to keep these lines unselected because I don't want to move them. This is important. After pressing enter, I pick this point, and as you can see, I extend the lines. I'm going to type with the keyboard the length that I want to extend. If for the same figure I select all lines except this first one, I will move also the second vertical line. Another situation. If instead I choose all this figure, this will be moving all the object, and the stretch will not have its proper effect. Part 3. In this part we are going to learn to insert and edit dimension lines, how to add layers, edit them or change one object from one layer to another, how to insert text, and finally how to print a project with a specific scale and in a specific paper. So let's start with the dimension lines. And here we will learn how to make exactly this example. To insert a dimension line, I can type with the keyboard dim linear, or alternatively you can switch here to annotate and then click in this icon. I'm going to insert a new dimension line, and here is where a lot of people struggles. As you can see, the numbers are too small, and this is because AutoCAD has a standard dimension sizes, and that doesn't matter what you are drawing, so the numbers can be too big or too small. This means that I have to open my Dimension Style Manager, and I can do it by clicking in this button. Alternatively, I can also use the command dim style. So first, I recommend you to create a new dimension style, clicking here. I will type the name of my new style, for example floor plan, and I'm going to choose standard measurements. I click on continue, and as you can see, the Dimension Style Manager is quite complex with a lot of things that I can edit. However, with a few changes, I can put my dimension lines in a good size. First, I will go to Symbols and Arrows tab and change the arrow size, which is too small. The distance that I show you here is 300. So I can put for my arrow size a value according to that distance, for example 100. The second thing I will edit is my text. If I go to the text height, I can see that it's too small again. I will put 100 as before. Now I can click on OK and close. To activate the changes, I have to click on the dimension line and change here this tab to floor plan. As you can see, this looks now much better. But, however, it's not exactly what I want, because I want the units displayed in meters. Open again the Dimension Style Manager and let's modify it. In Primary Units tab, I'm going to change the precision to only 2 decimals. And here as a suffix, let's put m for meters. Finally, because I want to change from millimeters to meters, I have to set up the scale factor as 0.001. Click on OK and close. So the dimension is now exactly as I want. In the next few minutes, we are going to learn how to work with layers. And for that, I will be using this floor plan. So let's open the Layer Properties Manager. Click on this icon over there, or you can also type Layer with the keyboard. If you look at this list here, I have separated in layers different categories of objects. For example, I created a layer called Doors for the doors. The layer Windows is for the windows, of course, and I did the same for the other elements. Now I'm going to show you how to edit layers. For each layer there are few options that I can change. I'm going to start with the color. For example, I click in the color of the layer dimensions and let's change it from orange to green. I recommend you to use light colors if you are working in a darker workspace. But now you may think, if I use light colors and I want to print, they might be difficult to see. For example, here the dimension lines are hard to see. But there is an option that I can change the color of the layer just in the viewport. I drag this window to the right and there will be more options for the layer properties. This column that is called VP color indicates the color that will be printed. I'm going to click to change the color for the dimensions. So I want this yellow a bit darker when I print. Now it's much easier to see the dimension lines. One more important thing. Any layer that is in white in the model space, it will automatically be black on the paper. Aside from the colors, I can change the line type clicking here. Now, if I go to load, I can see all these options. For example, I would choose this type, select it again here, and click OK. But if you go to the drawing, it looks like that the line type hasn't changed, and we can only see it if we zoom a lot. However, if we switch to the Layout tab, we are able to see the dashed line properly. And in the paper will be exactly like this. All this can be edited on line type scaling at the Properties panel. If you want to learn more about how it works, click on the card that appears above. To change the line weight, I click here and I can choose the size that I want. I select this of 1 mm for example and click OK. Now you may notice that nothing has changed in the drawing, because by default all the lines are displayed with the same size, as it's easier to work. But don't worry, because when you print, the line weight will be correct. In any case, if you want to display them on the screen, just click on this icon. Now, I'm going to show you how to insert a new layer. Click with the right button anywhere in this box and then click on New Layer. After, I type the name for the layer, for example line. Now I can edit the layer as I want. For example, change the color to red. Then I can edit the layer as I want. If you look here, you can see this tick in the layer dimensions. This means that this layer is currently selected. So if I draw, for example, a line, now it will be displayed in the layer dimensions, as it's in orange like the others. Also, this tab shows the layer that is currently active. If I want to move an object to another layer, it's simple. First, I have to select the object, then I click on this tab and choose the layer that I want to move to. I choose line. Here it is, and also in red color. Now I'm going to show you how to turn off a layer. It's simple. Do you see these lights here? If I click in one of them, I switch off the layer. I click on the bulb of the layer doors, and if you look to the drawing, you can notice that the doors disappear. Now imagine that I want to switch off other layers except the layer doors, for example. To do that, I double click on doors to activate it. After, I click with the right button. Now I click on select all but current. I click on the light of one of the selected and all of them switch off. This is great if we want to select all the objects of a specific layer. Another thing, I can also click next to the light. This freezes the layer and apparently does exactly the same as turning it off. But the difference is, with freeze, is like deleting the layer temporarily. Basically, this is useful for complex drawings with dozens of layers. If I freeze a bunch of them, AutoCAD may use less memory. Now I want to show you how to insert text. It's very simple and there are two ways to do it. The first way I show you here is to insert a single line text. To do it, I click in the arrow under the icon text and select single line text. If you cannot find it, you can also type with your keyboard text. OK, now I will click where I want to insert my text. The first thing I have to specify the text height, which will be the size of the line that I draw now. Then I will insert the direction of the text. As I want my text horizontal, I draw a line in this direction, I click, and I can now type the text. As you can see, it's like the text above, but a bit bigger. When I finish, I click somewhere with the mouse, and then escape. Now if I want to add text with the same size as this one, I click on the text, then right click in the blue square, go to Quick Properties, and here we can see the height of the text, which is 360. I close, and now I will insert a new text, and this time I will type 360 for the text height. And by doing that, it will match the text size of the text above. So you can see that both texts are equal. Now, let's learn a trick to add multiple titles with the same size. I type copy, select the text, press enter, click on the text, and click again on the places where I want to copy it. So this is very useful for floor plans. When I finish, just double click on each text to edit it. For example, this one I write kitchen, and I do the same for all the rooms. The second way to add text is multi-line text. If I click on the same arrow, now I choose multi-line text, or I can type with the keyboard text or just T. Now this way will open a text box and I have to specify the horizontal range of the text. When the text overflows the space, it goes automatically onto the next line. I can click here, and now I can start writing. The multi-line text is better when we want to insert a long text. In this tab we have all the options to edit the text, and among them you can see the text height here in this blank. In the next chapter I'm going to show you how to print a drawing with a specific scale. It's a very important feature in AutoCAD. As an example, I will be using this site plan and I want to print it in a scale of 1/200. This procedure is not difficult, but it has several steps. If it looks a bit confusing for you, don't worry, because after 2 or 3 times of practice, you will get it. Okay, if you look at this part of the screen, you can see those tabs here. This one that says Model is our current workspace. And as you know, this is where we make all the drawings. Now I'm going to switch to Layout 1. And here you can see a sheet of paper with all the drawings that I have in this file. This is the paper space for printing, and it has this paper size set by default, so we may have to change it depending on the scale that we need. Now I want to show you a characteristic of the layout, the viewport, which is this rectangle here. This acts like a portal. It displays the area that I will print. For example, I click on the viewport, then I select this point on the corner and I move it a little bit to this side. As you can see, the viewport became smaller, and also this part of the drawing is now hidden and will not be in the printing. So in the layout we have 2 different modes: paper, which is the current one, and model. When we have the paper active and I scroll with the mouse wheel, I zoom in all the workspace. Also, if I hold the wheel to use the pen, I move all the paper around. I'm going to switch to the model by double-click inside the viewport or clicking in this button here. So, if I move and zoom now, it only works inside the viewport. I'm going to leave the site plan in the center of the model. As I want to print it in a scale of 1/200, I need to click in this icon to choose the scale. And you can see all this list. However, if the scale that I want is not there, I can still create a new one by clicking in this button that says Custom. But let's choose 1/200. And as you can see, the drawing has zoomed a lot, meaning that my paper is too small for this scale and I have to change it to a bigger one. To change the paper size, I go to the Layout 1, right-click and choose Page Setup Manager. Then I click on Modify, and now I am in the Page Setup window. Here is where I can choose the printer and the paper size. First, let's click here to choose the printer. As I want to export to PDF, I can choose this option DWG to PDF. And remember that DWG is the extension for AutoCAD files. Now in the ribbon below, I can choose the paper size. I'm going to select A1. Why? Because I already know that it will fit the drawing. But if in your case you don't know the size, you have to try different ones to find the appropriate. Finally, I click on OK and then close. As you can see, I have now a much bigger paper. So what I need now is to increase the viewport and fit the drawing. I click on the corner and drag it to the other side. As I am in the paper mode, I double-click inside to switch it to the model, so that I can drag the drawing to fit it in the center. You may notice that this part is not fitting, so I have to increase the viewport a bit. Now I am ready to print, but at this moment the viewport will also appear in the paper. So how can I hide the viewport? There are 2 options. I can drop the viewport to outside of the paper, which is not my favorite. But the second option, I can create a special layer for the viewport and then freeze it. I will open the Layers window, right-click inside the window and select New Layer. I name it as Viewport. Then I select the viewport and move it to its correct layer on this tab above. Finally, I click again in the same ribbon and then in this icon to freeze it. Now I cannot see the viewport. Finally, I'm ready to print, but before it's important to confirm that the scale is correct. I switch to Model and here you have it. To print, I go to the Layout 1 tab, right-click and choose Plot. Once I have my printer selected, I can click on OK. Now save the file. And here you can see the drawing in PDF with the scale of 1/200. Part 4. In this chapter, I'm going to explain how to combine multiple lines to form a single object. I will be using the commands group and block. And this works for almost any kind of drawing. I'm going to start explaining the command group, and it's very simple and quick. It's a very good idea if we only need to use the object once or twice. So I select everything that I want to convert, right-click, and here from this list I choose Group. As you can see, if I hover the figure, everything is highlighted and it acts as a single object. If I don't want to have these objects grouped anymore, just click with the right button and then you can click on Ungroup, which is under Group, and it's done. Now an important thing. Don't use the command explode to get rid of the group, because it simply doesn't work. And the reason is, technically, we are not converting the lines in one object, we are just grouping them. That subject is create a block, which is exactly what we are going to see next. Blocks are very useful elements in AutoCAD. They can be quite complex, and actually we could easily make a 1-hour tutorial just for them. But here I will just explain you the basics, so you can start using them easily. First of all, you should have the objects that will be part of the block on the layer 0, as later you can move to the layer that you want without having any problems. Okay, when we have a bit of practice we can do differently, but for now I recommend you to do in this way. To start, I can type block or click in the button Create located at the block panel. The block definition window opened, and it's where I can set up the block. First, I have to choose a name, for example, figure. Now on the first column, it asks to choose a base point. I click here on Pick a Point, and this returns to my main screen. I'm going to choose the point that is more suitable for me, this one. I click on OK, and finally I need to select the objects, as I haven't selected them before. Press Enter and the block is done. If I click on it, I select everything. Now I'm going to explain why the command block is so useful. If I click on Insert on the Block tab, a window opens. Here I can choose the block that I want. If you click on this tab, you can see only the block that I create, as it shows just the blocks in this file. I can also change the scale there. Click OK and insert another block where I want. Actually, it's a block reference. You can notice it when you hover with the mouse. So what is the difference between blocks and block references? Block is the object that I created that you can find in the list at the block panel. It's like that I added it to the library of this file. Block references are the objects that we add to the workspace, basically references to the block. Each of them can be assigned in a different layer, have a different scale, or a different rotation. For example, here I have two different block references of the same block. Now suppose that we have the block copied lots of times and we want to erase, for example, the circle. I can edit the block. I go to Edit, now choose the figure, I click on OK, and it's going to open my block editor. Here I can make the changes that I want. I'm going to select the circle and delete it. Save the changes, close the block editor, and as you can see, all the circles were erased from all the blocks. How to insert dimension lines in order to appear always with the same size in the paper. The scale doesn't matter. How to fill close boundaries with the command hatch and some tips to use it. And finally, I want to show you how to calculate areas. Let's learn how the annotative dimensions work. So, first of all, I will click on the tab Annotate. Then in the Dimensions section, I click in this little arrow to open the Dimension Style Manager. Here, I will click on the Annotated Style and then click in Modify to edit it. Now we are in the section Text and we can see here the text height, which is set up as 3 mm. As this is a good size for viewing in the paper, I will not change it. Then I go to Symbols and Arrows, and also the arrow size is 3, which is good for me. So I click on OK and close. Now I can start, but before I will show you a new tip which is available since AutoCAD 2016. I'm going to type Dim Layer, press Enter. I have to insert a name for a new layer where I want the dimension lines in. For example, dimensions. And by doing this, every time that I create a new dimension line, it goes automatically to that layer. So let's start drawing annotative dimensions. First, I want to draw these two dimensions here, and this viewport is in a scale of 1/100. So the first thing I have to do is to change the scale in this icon and select 1/100. Now I can type Dim Linear or click on the icon over there. Press Enter. Now I'm going to draw the dimension line. I click in the first point and then in the second point. But as you can see, the text is very small, and it happened because I forgot to change it to the current dimension style. So going back, let's change the style here and select Annotative. Now it should be fine. So I click on the first point, and the second point I place it here. For the next dimension, I press Enter to reactivate the previous command. Now I click on this point, and then the second. Here it is. So if we go to the layout, you can see that the arrows and the text are visible. And when I print, the text and the arrows height will be exactly 3 mm, as it's what I specified before. Now let's draw the lines which are on the viewport with scale 1/30. So what do you think I should do? It's simple. Do the same process, change the scale to 1/30. Now I will draw again the dimension line, here, and then draw these other two here. When I zoom out, to see all the drawing, you can notice that the dimensions I just made are much smaller than the other ones. In fact, if I go to the layout, you can see that they have the same size in both viewports. And I also need to tell you another thing. You cannot see the dimensions here because I drew them in a scale of 1/30. So they will only appear in the viewport that has the same scale, which is this one on the right. Now, the last thing I want to talk in this chapter, it's very important, are these icons here about annotation objects. The first one here that says Show Annotation Objects. If it's switched on, all my annotation lines are displayed in the drawing. Now I'm going to deactivate it and look what happens. The dimension lines I have there disappeared, and the only ones that you can see were made with the scale 1/30. If I change to 1/100, you can see only the other ones. On the next section, I'm going to explain to you the command hatch. This command is used for filling enclosed areas as a solid fill or with a pattern or a gradient fill. To use this command, we can click on the icon there, select an enclosed area, and click. So, as you can see, I filled this enclosed area with the color defined in my current layer, which is white. For the shape, we can use one of the patterns located in this panel there. So the first one that says solid fills the enclosed area with only one color, and the others fill with the pattern that it's indicated in each image. Let's choose this one, but as you can see, it looks like nothing happened. And this is because the scale of the pattern is too small, as the spacing is only 1 mm. You can see it at the scale setting there. Let's change it, for example, to 10, and you can see the difference there. Then we can press Enter or Escape to leave the command. Hatches are types of objects like polylines, lines, blocks, text, etc. And you can realize it when you click or hover a hatch pattern. Okay, now that you know the basics to use the command hatch, I must say something. It's recommended to create a separate layer for the hatch command. If we are working in a project with lots of hatch objects, the computer may get a bit slow, especially when we are using very detailed patterns. So, in those situations, we can simply freeze the layer where we have the hatch objects. Like dim layer, there is a similar system variable for hatches, also released in AutoCAD 2017. I'm going to type HP layer and press Enter. Type the name for the special layer, for example hatch. Then, if I activate the hatch command, I can see that I add to the list a new layer. So, from now, each time I use the command hatch, the objects go automatically to that layer. Now imagine that I want to fill several areas, but I want them to act as a single object. Simple. I click in one area, then click on another, just right away, and keep clicking in the areas that I want to fill. Now an important thing. It's better to do this process with a solid pattern, because if I use one of the others, they are a bit heavier and the computer may get a bit slow. Also, sometimes, especially for large and more complicated areas, the fill may take few seconds to appear. And if you make a mistake in the filling, you can go back by pressing Ctrl Z and then continue. When I finish, press Enter or Escape. If I want to fill with a specific pattern, it's better to specify it in the end. To change the color, I can go to the layer Hatch, and switch it, for example, to green. Now pay attention to this example. Imagine that I want to apply hatch to this area. It could be to indicate a different apartment, for example. What I need to do is to create here a rectangle and then apply hatch there. This is the process. First, I create a new layer for the rectangle. I name it as border. Now I'm going to change the color. For example, I choose this pink one. Activate the layer. Now I'm going to draw a rectangle. Over there, I click in this point. This is not with precision, so the second point can be there. Now, if I want to apply hatch to the rectangle, I should turn off all the layers except the layer border. I click with the right button here, and then I choose Select All but Current. It selects all the layers except the active one. Then I click in one of the lights there to switch off all the layers except border. Now I can activate again the command hatch by tapping H, and I can click inside the rectangle. Oh, it didn't appear. Yes, it happened because I also switched off the layer hatch. So turn on the layer, and then do the same for the other ones. Select all, and click in one of the lights. The next step, I have to select the hatch of the rectangle. I click with the right button, I go to Draw Order, and click in Send to Back. And now I am able to see all the other objects. But if I select again the hatch and go there where it says Hatch Transparency, it's set as 0. But if I drag this bar, I can set the transparency. For example, I leave it here, then press Escape, and I can see it more transparent. Okay, on the next section I'm going to show you how to calculate areas in AutoCAD. It's very simple and I will show you two ways. The first way is what I use most of the time. You can type with the keyboard area or the alias AA. Another way is finding the command on the utilities panel here. Now I will calculate the area for this room. And what I need to do is to click on all the 4 vertices. I will start in this one. And don't forget to have the object snap turned on in order to snap to the corners. Once you finish, press enter and the calculated area will show up in this box. In this case, I have the units of millimeters, and that's the reason why I have this long number here. But in square meters, that is just 14. The second way I will show you here is to calculate the area of a polyline or a region. For this kind of situations where you need to click on a lot of vertices, that will take a long time. I activate the command again, but this time I'm going to choose the option Object. I press Enter, I select a polyline, it calculated the area automatically. So this is very useful for site plans, maps, irregular shapes, and other cases that takes time to draw all the boundary. Part 5. Now let's have here a newer version of AutoCAD, the version 2019, and this time I'm going to explain you the command array and also some extra commands of the section Modify, Lengthen, Break and Align. Let's start. How to use the command array. And you can see those types when you click on this arrow. We will start with the first one, rectangular array. And this mode displays the copied objects arranged in a matrix, like the red window in this example here. I'm going to click on the icon. Then I select the objects that are part of the window. Press Enter. And now you can see that a special tab for Array Creation appears on the ribbon. There we can control the number of items and the spacing between them. Now let's talk a bit about the settings. In this blank, we insert the horizontal spacing between the objects. At this moment is 2700, which is the distance between the first and second objects. Let's change it to, for example, 5000. Then press Enter or click on another blank. And you can see the difference now. Next, let's insert a vertical spacing, which in my case is 2600. Here you have it. As you can see, the windows are now disposed along 3 floors. Which is the number of rows. The number of columns in this case is 4. Okay, I'm going to select the array again, and I can do it by just clicking in one of the windows. The array is now a single object, and with these grips I can modify the distances or change the number of items. I'm going to explain to you how they work. If I click in the first one, which is represented by a square, I can move the array to a different position. For example, I want to move it 1000 meters. If I click in the triangles located on the second column and the second row, I can change its spacing between. For example, I click there for the vertical spacing. If I click in that grip, I change the spacing but the horizontal one. The grips at the last column and at the last row change the number of items. If I click here and drag to the right, I increase the number of columns. And the new value, it can be 20, for example. Now let's learn how to use the polar array. This time I need to click in the arrow next to the command and select polar array. I'm going to choose these 2 lines, press Enter, and for the center point of the array, I select the center of the circle. This time, I copy the objects in a specific number around the center of the array. Now let's look at the ribbon. It's a bit different. And in the first column, you can still have the number of items and 2 new options, Angle Between and Fill. Let's have a look. I'll click there and change the number of items to 24. And if you look at the spacing between, it has decreased it to 15. Now suppose, if instead of 15 I change it to 10, the number of items remain, but they couldn't fill all the circle. And that's why this angle is now less than 360. And this number of 230, it's exactly this angle. Now let's look at this part of the ribbon. In rows, as you can see, there is only one, because I only have 1 row of items displayed around the center. If I change it to a different number, for example 5, it basically changed to 5 orbits. It's currently set to 266. I'm going to show you a bit closer, here. Consequently, the total distance is this one, 1062. The last column is for the axis Z, so in 3D. I click and hold the mouse wheel and move the pointer around, so I change it the view. And now, even I have here 3 levels, the distance between each level is very small. If I put 300, for example, you can see the difference. The last array type that I'm going to talk is path array. Imagine that we have a curve here, and we want to place a certain object all along that curve, for example, a circle. I choose Path Array this time, select the object that I want to display all along the curve, press Enter, and then select the curve. Very good, it's done. But if I want to display the circles with a specific distance between them, I need to make some editings. I'm going to select the array path, and then I click in this triangle to change the distance. By placing a circle in another position, I increase the distance, and the number of items is also less. And the spacing between this time is the distance along the path, from the first up to the second item. Okay, then I'm going to show you more modified commands that you can find under this section here. And I'm going to explain to you just some of them. Even they are not very common, in some occasions they can be useful. Command Lengthen. As you may guess, this is used to modify the length of lines or line sections that are part of a polyline. I'm going to click on this arrow, and then the command is this one. Just click on it, and if you look at the command bar, there are several ways to modify the length of the line. First, I'm going to choose Total Length, which is displayed here as the current selected, which is displayed here. I click on the line, and then I just need to type the total length, for example 60. And then if I click at the right of the line, the 60 mm is added to this side. If I click on the left, it's the same but at the left side. Let's activate the command again, and this time I will choose Delta, DE. With this option, I can type a value to add to the current length. If I type 20 and hover the line, I add the length of 20 or to the right, depending on each side I click. To shorten the line, I can simply insert a negative value. But if I continue clicking, I increase the value the number of times that I want. Another way is %. Simply, I insert a percentage length. If I type 70, the new length of the line will be 70% of its original, basically 30% less. Finally, I can use the option Dynamic. I type dy, press Enter, click on the line, and as you can see, I extend it by moving just a pointer. If I want until this vertical line, I can click here using the object snap point, like the option through on the command Offset. Now I'm going to explain you the command Break. There are two types, break and break at a point. First, I'm going to start with the normal break. This creates a gap between 2 points in a line or in a polyline. I click on it, I'm going to this rectangle, and the place where I click is automatically considered as the first point. And the thing is that this was without any precision. Basically, if I type F, I can redefine the first point. So I'm going to this place, click outside the object, and it will be projected to its closest point. Then I can click again for the second point here, and you can see that it created a gap there. Now let's learn break at a point. In this case, I select first the object, and then I only need to click in one point. For example, if I click exactly here, the polyline is split between this nearest point and the origin. As you can see, now I have two polylines. Command Align. I can align an object with another one. First, I need to select the object that I want to move. This one. I press Enter, and then I select a source point, for example this one, and after, the point where I want to move the object. After, I can select a second point, and imagine that I decided I want this point here. I click, and then if I press enter, I will be asked if I want to scale the objects based on the alignment points. If I say yes, the rectangle has to be resized. But let's answer no instead. I keep the dimensions of the object, but I connect only in the first point. Going back, if I would click yes, you can see that the object is scaled in order to connect both points. Now, still in the same example, but this time the second point, let's put it on the opposite corner. Can you guess what is going to happen? The rectangle will be aligned along the diagonal axis. And if I choose to not scale the object, it stays there. And the result when I choose yes, it's this. Okay guys, it was everything in this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching, and now you can put into practice the concepts that you have been learning here. An important thing, don't forget to subscribe to CAD in Black. Yes, it's the name of this channel if you haven't realized. And there you can access to all the content, short tutorials, full-length courses and exercises. Take care and see you next time.